In the 1990s, it was a movie plot staple for bands to attempt to get signed after securing radio play. We see this in both 1996's That Thing You Do and 1994's Airheads. In the latter of these two movies, the band hold a radio station hostage after repeatedly failing to get their demo in front of label executives. If they could get their track played on the radio, the band thought, then the labels would hear it and be sure to sign them. 1992's Wayne's World took a slightly different route to achieve the same ends, rigging up a satellite video broadcast directly into the limo of a label owner. But in the modern era, how do artists get signed? Is radio still an important route to a record deal, or has it been replaced by social media and Spotify playlists? We will address some of these questions in this video. Today, there are many different ways through which labels find artists. The traditional routes to artist discovery, such as finding a band at a live show or from being sent a great demo, are still in play, but there are numerous new tools for labels to find emerging talent that are becoming increasingly popular. One of the reasons that labels don't simply send A&R scouts to hang around live music venues is because that is a very inefficient way to discover talent. Usually, if a label is watching an artist play live, they've already heard their recordings, found out quite a bit about them, possibly even meeting with them to discuss their music. Seeing them play live is often one of the later stages of scouting an act. Sometimes, however, an artist can simply be in the right place at the right time. People who work at labels are typically huge music fans, so will often go out to live shows. However, the odds of this happening and leading to a record deal are pretty small. Equally, sending off your demo to a label, especially if they haven't specifically requested that you do so, is unlikely to yield results. It's not impossible, but it's just not likely. Why? The reason is that even small labels receive far too many demos to go through them all, and after a certain amount of time has passed, they're unlikely to bother listening at all. So, what are the better routes to getting noticed by a label? This is where those 90s movies are actually quite instructional. Your best chance of getting heard by a label is by generating some buzz about your act. This can be done by securing lots of press, in print and online, and by securing radio play. In the UK, there are many notable outlets that labels still look to as tastemakers. These include blogs like Clash and DIY, as well as BBC Introducing's radio teams in the UK. BBC Introducing DJs in the various regions can escalate your tracks up the radio ladder to national stations such as BBC Six Music and BBC Radio 1, and at this point labels are far more likely to take notice. Again, however, the chances of this leading directly and quickly to a record deal are very small. Artists are increasingly expected to use these kinds of opportunities to build their fan base, showing that there is a demand for the music. As we mentioned in our video, What is a Record Label?, recorded music revenues are smaller than in previous eras, so labels are only likely to invest when there is evidence that they will be able to sell your music. It is in this context that labels are increasingly turning to a data-led A&R scouting approach. In recent years, a number of tools have been developed which labels can use to spot trends amongst emerging artists. There are too many to mention, and some major labels have developed their own systems rather than relying on third-party platforms, so we won't go over the specifics here. Instead, we will briefly discuss some examples which examine different aspects of the industry that can help guide a label toward a decision to invest in an artist. Most of these data tools examine the patterns in traditional A&R metrics, such as the press an artist is generating or their radio plays. For instance, blog aggregation tools such as Hype Machine can be used to spot which artists are getting regular or widespread coverage on the blogs they track. SubmitHub also offers a version of this sort of data via their genre and popular charts, showing which artists are getting picked up by the blogs, playlists, and radio shows that use their submission service. Spinatron, by contrast, analyses radio plays across non-commercial stations, showing which emerging artists are being played outside of the mainstream playlists. Other tools, such as Chartmetric, can be used to monitor follower numbers on social media and DSPs like Spotify. Typically, the important metrics here aren't the raw number of followers, but the pattern of growth, how quickly you're adding new followers, which is an indicator of a rapidly growing fan base. An even more recent trend is for labels to use data from aggregators, the companies which distribute music to DSPs and collect revenue from them, to identify which artists are performing well on streaming platforms. SpinUp, an aggregator developed by Universal Music Group as a way of spotting trending artists, has been doing this for a while now. More recently, DistroKid has started offering a similar service which any label can sign up to, with Universal being confirmed as one of the first on board. Most likely, labels taking this sort of approach are using a combination of these sorts of tools to build a broader picture of an artist's current and potential popularity, so they can feel more confident that their investment will pay off. All of this shows the importance of an artist being aware of the various metrics that labels use to put together their roster and making sure that they grow their fanbase both online, on DSPs, and for live shows. In this regard, audience is everything.